que sí es mucha plata, realmente sí es mucha plata. $100 es mucho.
Welcome to Problem Solving and Decision Making, brought to you by the University of California, Irvine. I'm Rob Stone. I've been doing problem solving and decision making my whole life, just like all the rest of you. We all do that on a daily basis. We constantly do this. We do it well, we do it not so well, but we're always doing it. I've also been doing this in my professional life for a number of years. How many will not actually point out, but a number of years in many organizations. I've worked with for-profit organizations, not-for-profit organizations, with government organizations. We're going to, in this class, talk about some of the tools, techniques, methods, processes that can help with problem solving and decision making. I've applied those in organizations. I've made decisions myself in various organizations, helped other people make decisions, helped teams make decisions. So we'll be working with some of the things that help us do that. So let's take a look at some of the concepts involved with problem solving and decision making. We're going to talk about problem solving and decision making in organizations. This is Module 1, Lecture 1. A decision, it's a choice. So we have to make a choice. That's what decision making is all about, choosing. And the decision making part of it is a process. So there's some steps you can go through, or we'll look at another way. You don't have to go through specific steps. Some people just somehow make decisions along the way. This is a logical choice from available options. So this is a little biased because it's from the business dictionary, and it implies that we're going to make good decisions. We don't have to make good decisions. We can make bad decisions as well, but hopefully we'll make good decisions. We can make a bad choice or no choice. And then we'll talk about making good choices along the way as well. We may have option 1 and option 2. A bad choice would be to look at those and not think about them and just pick one. An example of that, there was a person that needed to hire a new staff member in their department. This person that was going to do the hiring was the head of that whole department, the final decision maker, the authority and everything. They put together a team of people to help in the hiring process, and they got this group of people to interview different candidates and put recommendations together. There were a list of prioritized people that this group came back with to this final authority, the final decision maker. And then this final decision maker looked at the list and said, I don't need this, and threw it away. So if they had a choice between person 1 and person 2, how are they going to make that choice? What they did was they said, I'm just going to pick that person over there because they speak Italian. Speaking Italian had nothing to do with working in this organization. Teamwork, understanding various work processes, being able to work with customers, those were all key skills, and the person that was hired had none of those. So when we're looking at some of the choices we make, if we don't think through these, we might make a bad choice. That was a terrible choice. Another thing we can do is say option 1, option 2, or no choice at all. We may say that at a certain point, something will happen. Either option 1 is going to take place or option 2 will take place. I really don't know what to do, and I don't really want to make a decision, so I think I'll just let things go on their own and see what happens. I'll make no choice at all. So actually, you are making a choice. Whichever one is the strongest and is the one that's going to actually become the end result is your choice. You've decided not to do anything, therefore something's going to happen, and it may not be the best thing. Let's look at how we might decide to paint new cars. So we have choice 1 and choice 2 for painting new cars. One organization did a great job between choice 1 and choice 2, option 1 and option 2. We had a group of engineers, 2 groups of engineers. One group of engineers says, this is the best way to paint these new cars. Another group of engineers says, this is the best way to paint these new cars. The CEO of this car company, all of you know this car company, many of you have cars made by this company. The CEO finally had to make the decision because the engineers were just like this. They couldn't make the decision of choice 1 or choice 2. Nobody else could figure out how to make this choice, so they went to the CEO. Both groups of engineers put together great logical arguments on why the CEO should pick this way to paint the cars instead of this way to paint the cars. The CEO surprised them, got all the engineers together and said, okay, let's figure out how we're going to paint the cars. Said, I just have one question for each group. Please tell me which method of painting these cars will not work. And all of the engineers in unison said, well, both ways work just fine. He said, choice. Well, both ways work just badly, and you don't exercise enough. To run at least 25 of different ways. This module will discuss problem solving. Decision making we're going to talk about in Module 3. Now we're going to have a knowledge check for you. So take a look at that and we'll be back. Module 1, Lecture 2. Let's start with types of problems. A lot of this comes from Problem Solving the Owner's Manual by Pierce Howard. Great book, you should take a look at that one. A couple other books we'll refer to as well through here. Problems for which solutions are unknown. So we have different kinds of problems. Sometimes we have no idea what the solution is. We have to find that out. We also have problems that have solutions, we just don't know which is going to be the best one. It's not obvious to us which the best solution is. Problems with solutions that have unknown results. Problems where the cause is unknown and must be discovered. Sometimes if we find out what the cause of the problem is, then we can figure out how to deal with this problem. We just get rid of the cause, the problem goes away. Sometimes the cause doesn't make any difference at all. It's unknown or irrelevant. If we're talking about peace in the Middle East, the original cause for some of the conflict, really irrelevant. And it's a little muddy about what it really was all about. We just know that now we have to solve this. We have problems where solutions are known, but we don't know which one's the best one. Sometimes these are very difficult kinds of problems to solve. We have solutions with certain outcomes. We have solutions with uncertain outcomes. And we have solutions that need to be prioritized. Let's think a little bit about looking at a new job or solutions with uncertain outcomes. We know that we're going to have a new job. We have two choices, choice A, choice B. Both of them are great jobs. They're both great opportunities. One of them means that we move to the northeast coast of the United States. One of them means that we move to the south central part of the United States. Different size cities, different types of work, different groups of people we will work with. So we're trying to envision what is our daily life going to look like once we accept one of these jobs and go there. What does it look like in the workplace every day? What does it look like when I'm out around in my new community? What is it going to look like when I make new friends in these places? So we have a number of things to look at, and we really don't know. We will find out when we get there, and eventually we'll find out, yes, I'm really happy here. I love my work every day. I love the people I work with. I love where I live. Everything's great. I have a fantastic life. I made the right choice. Solutions with certain outcomes. We know that there's this outcome, that outcome. We just evaluate which one is the best. And solutions, second best choice, my third best choice. Prioritize. All we need, we just gather ideas that can fix the problem. That's what we're looking for there. Decisions between solutions with certain outcomes, decide on one or the other, all we need to do. And decisions where there are uncertain outcomes like we just discussed, we just have to figure out which one looks the best out of these with a number of things we evaluate along the way. And then if we just have this whole jumbled list, we need to get this prioritized. What does this look like? What's my best choice, my second best choice, my third best choice? Two general categories of problems and problem solving. Analytical problem solving is one way to look at problems. Another one, there's creative problem solving. Analytical problem solving has a right answer. And looking at these kinds of problems, it's usually systematic, the way that we work through an analytical problem. For example, what's the answer here? 2 plus 6 plus 4. 12. There's not a number of different answers, unless maybe you're in astrophysics somehow. Maybe we can figure out some different answer. But for normal humans, if you're not Hawking, then you're probably going to end up with the answer of 12. There are 4 methods for doing this. There are a number of methods, but 4 we'll take a look at that are common ones. One is root cause analysis, very systematic approach to looking at a problem. One is matrix decision analysis, another systematic way of looking at this. Another one is a decision tree, another very systematic way of looking at things. And one is a precedence chart, which things come first, second, third, another very systematic way to look at things. Root cause analysis. We have some different categories. What we do is say in category 1, 2, 3, 4, what are the causes of the problem under this category? So one category might be something mechanical. Your car won't start. So we say something under there that might be mechanical is, I have bad spark plug wires, or my battery's dead, or the starter has gone bad. So we have a number of different possible causes for that. Another thing could be we've flooded the engine in the car because we don't really know how to start a car very well. We may have another category that says people issues. Well, you may have somebody like a brother-in-law that drives your in-law's car occasionally, and whenever they go out to start it, they can't start it. So they're always calling you to come over and start the car for them. You can't figure out why your brother-in-law can't start the car. You just figure, my brother-in-law's an idiot. So it's a person issue. So these categories start to divide our causes for a problem into different areas. And this is the way we look at causes, get rid of the cause, the problem ends up going away. As we start examining this, we finally find out, oh, your brother-in-law is using a different car key than you are. Oh, there's a little electronic chip in every single car key. Oh, the electronic chip in his car key has gone bad and the car won't recognize his key, and so it won't let him start the car. So when you go over with your key and put it in there and start the car, of course it starts. Everybody thought he was an idiot? No, it's a mechanical problem. You get the key fixed and then even your brother-in-law can start the car. So we look at different causes for problems to get rid of the final problem. Matrix decisions, we're going to look at things we can do, how we can work together to make these things happen, and we're going to see if there's some kind of correlation between things, who's going to do things, how are people going to do things. So we'll end up with a decision matrix analysis to say, okay, this is what's going to go on here, this person's going to do this person will do that, and we'll get things accomplished finally. We're going to look at a decision tree. That's another systematic way of doing things. We have some kind of a decision we need to make. We have option A and option B. Option A has some different possible outcomes. We even have a subheading under option A, and that has 2 different possible outcomes. Under B, again, we have a number of different outcomes. So we have our possible outcomes. What do we do with this? We're going to prioritize these and figure out which is the best outcome. So a number of different tools to help us in our decision-making process. Precedence chart is another one of these. This just says, okay, how in the world do we solve this problem? What we're going to do to solve this problem is we start off with, what do we need to get done? The purpose of this. What are the means we're going to use to get there? And then we get down to specific tasks. What are the things we have to do? So we get into some of the consequences we were talking about. Oh, you mean I have to do this and this and this, and then that will finally reach the goal over here. So another way to look at problem solving along the way. Let's look at creative problem solving. We just looked at analytical problem solving. Just want to tell you a quick story about a couple that makes decisions. The husband, very analytical, and every time he solves a problem, he'll put all kinds of charts and graphs together, he'll analyze all kinds of things, gather a lot of data, put everything together in some systematic format, go through step by step, and solve the problem, and does a fairly good job most of the time. His wife doesn't do it that way. She does creative problem solving. She just thinks about problems and somehow manages to think about all the different aspects, kind of all at the same time in her head, and comes up with a solution to the problem. And oddly enough, she is right 97 times out of 100. She comes up with the best solution. He comes up with the best solution occasionally. She comes up with the best solution almost always. It doesn't always work that way. Systematic analytical problem solving is a great way to do things. So is creative. There are numbers and numbers and numbers of things. It proves itself out in the real world eventually. Did we pick the best answer? Welcome back. This is Problem Solving and Decision Making, University of California, Irvine. Once again, I'm Rob Stone. In this module, we're going to talk about some tools that actually help us figure out where our problems are, what's causing our problems, where we should look for solutions. These tools don't show us how to actually decide things, they show us where to focus our efforts. We're going to look at a Pareto chart, we're going to look at cause and effect diagrams, we're going to look at histograms. First of all, a Pareto chart. Well, there was a gentleman named Vilfredo Pareto. Lived in Italy, late 1800s, early 1900s. He was looking around and realized that 80% of the wealth of Italy in 1906 was controlled by 20% of the population. So he came up with the 80-20 rule. So we hear the 80-20 rule all the time. That's what that's all about. It's where it came from. What it says is that most of our problems are caused by a very small percentage of actual causes themselves. So most of our problems come from a very small number of causes. We want to find those small number of causes, deal with those, and most of our problems will go away. Pareto chart, it's a vertical bar chart, and we're going to look at a couple of bar charts, but this one, the tall bar is out on the left side of the bar, and then they're in descending order from there. Why are we going to do that? We'll show you in just a little bit. What does this show us? Information in a descending hierarchical order. It shows us priorities of things. Identifies issues that cause our problems. It can help us focus our efforts so we're working on the most important things. We're not off wandering around working on some little trivial issue that's really not going to do much for us if we take care of that. So what does a Pareto analysis look like? Looks like one of these things. We have some bars, tall bar out on the left side and the small bar out on the right side. It's used for problem solving. Data is put into different categories, and then it's ordered starting with the most problematic. Let's take a look at a restaurant. We have a problem at a restaurant. We get complaints at our restaurant. So we start to gather some information about that. What are the complaints? Why are people complaining about this? Some people are going to complain sometimes about bad food, some people about bad service, some people about noise. There's all different kinds of things that people complain about in restaurants. Why are they complaining about our restaurant? Well, parking problems. If we look at the 257 complaints we have in a certain period of time, 112 of them are parking problems. That's the tall bar out on the left. That's the 112, the tall bar. The next bar, we've got rude waiters. So people are having a hard time parking, then they get in there and you get a rude waiter. So right away it's probably not a very good experience. Now there's some problem with their food. The food isn't cooked right. It's cooked too much, it's not cooked enough, something's wrong with it. Then some people complain about the restaurant being noisy. Some people say the food is cold. My father, my mother-in-law, seems like elderly people, they eat too slow, and so their food gets cold, and so I was complaining the food's cold. It wasn't cold when it came out, but it is now. So we complain about cold food. We look at a number of different issues along the way here to find out, okay, so what's the main problem? If we take a look at our chart now, we say we have these three issues up here. If you take a look at this, these three issues are the tall bars. They're going to account for almost all of the complaints we have in the whole restaurant. This is called the vital few. Then we also have the trivial many. There was one of the people involved working with these Pareto charts later on. Vilfredo Pareto, when he was working with this, said the vital few and the trivial many, and a number of other people worked with those. And then one fellow, Joseph Duran, came along and said, it's not the trivial many, it's also the important many. Because if we can also get rid of all of those, then we have a world-class 5-star restaurant. Let's take a look at this. We have 257 complaints. 112 of them, we're going to do some simple math here. 112 of them are because of parking. So we're going to get a percentage here. We're going to get an accumulated percentage to find out where we need to focus our efforts. What it says here is that 43.6% of our problems come simply from parking. So almost half of the problems we have, half of our complaints are coming from parking, bad parking. Now we're also going to add the rude waiters. We're going to put the two of those together. So when we put the two together, add them up, we come up with now a total percentage of these two, 72%. 72%, almost 3/4 of the complaints we get. And then we go fix those, and we're in a lot better shape. Let's talk about another tool, a cause and effect diagram. There's 3 terms for the same tool. Cause and effect diagram, or CE diagram, you'll see it written as sometimes. Fishbone diagram, because it kind of looks like a fishbone. Or an Ishikawa diagram, guess why? Ishikawa is the one who developed it. Cause and effect diagram, it's a visualization tool for categorizing potential causes of problems. And we're going to, in this tool, be looking for root causes. If we look at a cause and effect diagram, it identifies issues that cause our problems, versus a Pareto chart. A Pareto chart is going to prioritize those and put those together in a little different visual format. Cause and effect diagram. It's going to say, well, we have something that kind of looks like a fishbone here. The effect is what we have out on the end of this thing, and then we have the various fish bones along the way. A common 4-category method for this is people, materials, machines, and methods. This is called the 4 M's. Materials, machines, methods. People, that's not an M. In a less enlightened time, that was called manpower. Now it's people. So it's still referred to mostly as the 4 M's. Now we look for causes in here, and we go deeper. What's the cause of something with materials? There's some material thing that's causing this problem, like we talked about before. Bad car key. Well, what about the bad car key? Car key is fine. It fits into the little slot where you put the key in there. Oh, it's the chip inside the car key. So we keep asking why, until we finally get to, oh, this is the root cause. Your brother-in-law couldn't start the car because there was a bad chip in the key. Fix the chip, everything's fine. So that's what we're looking for, that one little small thing that's the cause, the main key root cause of our problem. Here's a couple of examples of what a fishbone diagram would look like. So we have poor gas mileage. There's some people issues. People just have some driving problems. I don't know if you've heard about some of the people who drive Priuses and are trying to get the most gas mileage out of it they possibly can. Some of those people are trying to have people drive the cars the best they can, and so they're saying drive it barefoot is even better. Do this is even better. Do that is even better to get 1 more mile per gallon out of these things. Equipment issues. You may have a car that when you bought it, got pretty good gas mileage. And now that it's 6 years old, it's not getting such good gas mileage. There are just some equipment issues with this thing. Measurement. Maybe you just don't know how to measure the mileage very well. You might use the little thing that's on your odometer that says this is how many miles per gallon you're getting. Maybe that thing's kind of worn out. The measurement isn't good. Instead of doing the old-time math way of calculating the miles you've driven, and then figuring out how much gas you used during those miles, which means you have to write down mileage every time at the gas pump, as well as how many gallons of gas you're getting, and then do some math to figure this out. Maybe then we finally get a better look at what our gas mileage actually is. So we're just looking at what are the causes of our problem, and then we'll go back and figure out how do we fix those things. Welcome back now, Module 2, Lecture 3. We're going to talk about a tool called a histogram. It's a bar chart, but guess what? The bars just fall into whatever place they belong in. We don't just move the tallest bar off to the left like we did on the Pareto chart. A histogram will show us how things are actually happening in the world. It's a graphic display where the data is grouped into ranges. Each bar is plotted as a range of data. Shows us information as it actually exists. Allows us to make decisions. What we're looking at with all of these tools is what are causing us problems and what kind of solutions can we put in place to deal with those problems. Histogram is the thing that will help us focus in on areas where we want to put our efforts. It's one way to display and examine what's going on. We're just looking at what's going on out here in the world. Three most common characteristics. We have shape, we have central tendency, and we have dispersion. So let's talk about those three things, because they're going to all give us some good information that will help us focus in on where to look to solve some of our problems. Shape. Let's take a look at what the shape of this histogram is like. So we can have the shape of a histogram like this, or we can have these other shapes, skewed to the right, skewed to the left, uniform, or the typical bell-shaped curve. In most situations, if you gather enough samples of what's going on, you'll get something very close to a bell-shaped curve. It may be skewed one direction or the other, but very close to a bell-shaped curve. This one's skewed off to the right. What happened here? Well, this is a class that's gotten some grades. Let's say this is a class in biology that happens to be at a Big Ten university who accepts every student that applies from that state. You can't turn down a student. They get to come to the university no matter what their SAT or ACT scores might happen to be. Doesn't make any difference. They all get to come there. So right away, in their freshman year, there's a couple of classes the university puts in to just start to weed out the people that really can't keep up, or the people that just won't. Or it might focus some of those people measures the shape, the central tendency, and the dispersion, and piece right in the middle. And then we have mode. Mode is simply when we put all these numbers together, A plus, A minus, B plus, C, D, other, incomplete. One of those comes up the most. Which thing comes up the most? That's the mode. It's the easiest to identify because we just look at all the numbers and numbers or values and say, oh, that one comes up the most number of times. And a lot of times, it's the least useful way to do things. The mean or the median are usually much more useful measures of central tendency than the mode. Although the mode is there for you for sometimes when you may be able to use that. We're also looking at dispersion. What does the shape of this thing look like? Is it all squished out here? And central tendency and the dispersion. And we can make well-founded decisions based on the information that we get from these things, and then we can have effective actions that we take. Well, welcome back again. We're discussing problem solving and decision making, brought to you by the University of California, Irvine, and I'm Rob Stone. This is Module 3, Lecture 1, and in this module we're going to talk about group decision making. In groups we have to make decisions, and there are a number of ways to do that, and depending on the kind of decision you're making, then you need to use different methods for doing that along the way. We're going to talk about decision making in groups rather than individual decision making, although some of these will actually be ways to make decisions by one person. Common methods that we're going to discuss. We can make decision by majority. We can make decision by minority. We can make decision by an expert. We can have an authority figure, somebody that just makes the decision for the group with no input from the group at all. We can have an authority figure that will make the decision for the group, but there will be input from the group before that decision is ever made. And then we can have a group decision called consensus. And many of us have heard this term and have some idea what it's all about. We'll try to clarify that just a little bit. It can be done wrong, done badly, people have confusion about it, or it can be done very well and be a very good group decision-making method. So we'll talk about all 6 of these. First one, let's talk about majority decision-making. So what's majority decision-making all about? There's some advantages to this. It's familiar, it's fast. Many of us know how to do it, and we've known how to do this since we can remember, when we're little bitty kids. Majority decision making is usually a vote. We just say, okay, how many think we should do A? How many think we should do B? Okay, looks like A wins, that's what we're going to do. Off we go do that. So can we do it? Yeah. Know how to do it? Yeah. Fast, easy? Yeah, all that stuff. There's some disadvantages. First of all, people may not all buy into this thing. And if we're in a team, we could leave some of our team behind. If we're working in some kind of a group, leave some of the group back behind because the group has done a majority vote that wasn't what these people agreed to. Part of the group moves forward, the rest of the group does not. We may end up, because of that, with the results of this decision not being effectively implemented. So some people may say, you know, that just put this move together, 10 people do, and so don't have any involvement in that discussion decision, then we could make a do with a buy-in and everybody followed him, famous he was at Alexander the Great, true. We'll have good leaders that they are good leaders and there's a lot of buy-in and support for what they're doing because they care about themselves. So the belief and trust we have in the authority figure has a whole lot to do with authority with no input. Module 3, Lecture 2. We're going to talk about 2 other It's not easy. Some people think consensus is an easy way to make decisions. It's not. It's not an easy way at all. We're back again now. Sometimes somebody just has to say, okay, this is what we're doing. You do that, you do that, you do that, because we don't have any more time. We may have a matter of seconds to make decisions and take actions, and we don't have time to do anything other than that. But whenever possible, involving everybody that's going to be affected by this decision is a great way to make good ethical decisions. With that, we'll move on to another module. Welcome back one more time. We're discussing problem solving and decision making. This is brought to you by the University of California, Irvine, and I'm Rob Stone. This is Module 4, Lecture 4. We're going to be talking about using data to make decisions. Data fits in also with expert knowledge. Sometimes we need data to make good decisions, and we need our expert knowledge to point us in the right direction to even figure out where to start gathering the data. In a group, when we're making decisions, there are a lot of people sitting there that have some really good experience, a lot of expertise, and we need to draw on that. We also need to use data to support what our thinking is about things. Between the two things, expert knowledge and data, going back and forth, the expert knowledge can point us in the right way to find some data, find the data that we need, point us in the right directions. Where do we go gather data? What kind of data do we need? We bring that back to the group, and the group says, that's pretty good. We found some good things, but we sort of missed this little piece. And gosh, we did some data gathering there we didn't really need to do, but we thought we did. I guess that's nice to have that, but we really need to move forward with some other things. Let's go get some other information with waiting in line. This is how long it does some running. We're going to look at two tools, but for this individual, this is how does this pay for line? What they were searching. This one chart pointed them in the right direction immediately to solving this problem. We have Module 4, Lecture 2. Control charts. So what are control charts? Control charts, well, they start to look like a run chart. So it's a quality control tool, quality improvement tool, quality management tool. It's a way that we're going to look at data over time again. But we're going to add a few more things. We have the mean in here. We're also going to add two more mathematically calculated lines. There are a number of different kinds of control charts to use, and what that means is we've used different ways to calculate these lines called the upper control limit and the lower control limit. And depending on what kind of data we're looking at, what kind of processes we're looking at, we'll have just a little bit different formula to look at these two lines, the upper control limit and the lower control limit. What these things mean is that if our process is working right, it's just between these two lines right here. Be some little, we're on vacation, what's going on? Did this thing about just ways of clothing manufacturing. Get damn, wait a minute, how dumb could we be? We give people new equipment, we have to give them training. So we shut down the whole floor and we're falling apart. You may have a car that keeps you somewhere between 59.5 and 60.5. And if that's what that car operates at, which you probably paid more money for that car, then that's great too. But we just know that it should never then go higher or lower than those numbers. Special cause of variation is what we've been talking about. And then there's common cause of variation. Common cause, just that every day to look at with an common cause of variation and special cause of variation. Module 4, Lecture 3, implementing the decisions that we've come up with. There are numerous change management processes. We'll just examine one here and talk about some change in general. Process we'll look at says, first, prepare for the change. Get everything ready for the change. Let people know that there's going to be change. People don't mind change as much as they mind being changed. So we just let people know there's going to be some change, you're going to be involved in it, here's what it's all about, here's what it's going to affect, and we'll start through the change process. So we develop the change management strategy, how we're going to actually roll this thing out. We're going to prepare the change management team. We're going to have some sponsors that help move this thing through the organization, work with different people. We're going to put those people in place, get them ready. We're going to manage the change itself. Develop the change management plan, take actions to implement the change and implement the plan, So take actions and implement the plans. There was an organization, it was a tax organization in one country. All countries have some kind of a tax organization. In the United States, we have the IRS. There's tax agencies in almost every country out there. One of these countries, their tax authority said, okay, we're going to change. What we want to do is become much more friendly to the taxpayers. We want to help them better. Yes, we're going to collect taxes from them, but we want to help them. We want to help them figure how they have enough money taken out of their paychecks, or how they save enough money aside so that at the end of the year they have enough to pay their taxes. We're going to help them all we possibly can. We're going to actually come up with a new name for our whole organization. We're going to come up with a new look for everything. We're going to come up with all different kinds of things. So what they did was they said, here's all the things we need to change. So they put process improvement teams on all kinds of things they did in the organization and said, okay, how do we make this thing better? How do we make it work better? How do we help the taxpayers of the country understand this better, work with it better? So they did a great job with all of that. The whole organization was involved in this, the whole agency. Then they came up with new names for everything. They came up on there, well, in our organization, we're going to be leading edge of any kind of change. It does this department who decides the experience. We're going to have a color change process that we do, and we just do this by hand. What this factory manager did was thing the same project, countertops process change action. And again, this has been brought to you from University of California, Irvine. I'm Rob Stone. Thank you for taking the time to join us with all of this.